Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Jaygoobi. Today we're going to be talking about how I paid less than $400 a month for this charger. Let's get into it. Video, as I said in the intro, I'm just going to be talking about how I got this car for less than $400 a month. I put a total of $1,500 out of pocket. So to start off, getting a new car is kind of annoying in my opinion. You know, you have to deal with dealerships being jackasses and pretending like they're your friends and such and such. Like I remember wanting to get this car at least 8 months before I actually got it. I remember I was in high school and all I would ever do was just fantasize about this car. Originally, the first charger I actually wanted was just the RT Blacktop edition. Nothing special, I just thought it was really cool. Because the price the dealership originally gave me I thought was really good. So I was like, yeah, you know, why don't I get the Blacktop? And then I saw obviously the Hellcat, and then I saw the Daytona 392, and I saw other models, and I was like, damn, you know, I got some change. Why don't I try to pick something? So, you know, I started looking up videos on how to get a car for cheap prices, and just what, you know, what criteria you need to meet in order to get a car. You know, looking up insurance, gas mileage, you know, MPG, deals, specials, incentives, all that other crap. And then I realized I didn't really have a line of credit because I just turned, I was just around 17 at that time, so I was still pretty young. I went to a dealership and I test drove the Blacktop and I liked it. You know, it was the first car that I was going to lease because originally I had a 2000 Mercedes S430 with a salvage title. So, you know, I was going from, you know, this clunker car, which, don't get me wrong, did more than its fair share for me. I fell in love with the Blacktop and I was like, oh, you know, well, how the hell does this work? And I guess the dealer, the salesman automatically knew I was very new to this, so he started playing that bullshit game. He's like, oh, we just need to run your credit and then, you know, I can give you an offer. So I was like, okay. And then my dad was like, hold up, you know, you shouldn't just run your credit. And I was like, why not? And then he had to explain to me that running your credit affects your score, and, you know, there's different ways of looking at your credit, and then you can just ballpark. So I was like, okay, ballpark, what can you do for me? And the guy's like, okay, you know, I can do $400 a month with $3,000 out of pocket. I was looking at people's reviews for Blacktops, and then, you know, I liked the car. It was a black car. It came with a little bit of spoiler on it. But then I saw they had the Daytona RT edition. You know, it had an active exhaust. It was a V8 engine. It had a bump up in horsepower. Anyway, I see that and I'm like, this is what I need. I want a Daytona. For some reason, I wanted a Daytona. And then I go to the dealership. Same dealership, same guy I was talking to, and I'm like, oh, what can you do for this one? Because they had a Destroyer Gray Daytona on the floor with like 6 miles on it, and he goes, oh, you want to drive it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we drove it, and I was like, fuck the Blacktop. This is what I want. This is the car I want. This is what I need. Because, you know, I'm a 17-year-old kid that doesn't understand financial stuff. I'm like, I have the money, why not? So my dad's telling me before I make a deal, I need to figure out how I'm going to lease the car, because none of these people, like, long story short, none of them would really give me a car unless I put like $10,000 out of pocket, which I wasn't going to fucking do because no. Anyway, so, you know, I talked to the guy and I'm like, hey, what can you do? I'm like, can you do like $380 for the car? Because I was looking up online, chargers aren't that expensive. And he tells me verbally, yes, I can do $380 if you do $1,500 out of pocket. And then I'm like, oh, okay, can I get it in writing? He goes, why do you need it in writing? You can get it right now. Then I was like, oh, I need some time to get my financial situation in order, all this. And I just didn't want to get the car right there because, again, I wanted to know what I was getting into. So I texted him like a week later. I'm like, hey, is the offer still good? And he goes, yeah, come by the dealership, we'll work something out. So I'm like, okay. And my brother, who used to be a car salesman for years, was telling me the same thing. Was I have to get you have to get their offer in writing, otherwise these salesmen are gonna like toy with you. They're gonna pretend like they know what you're saying. They're gonna give all these bullshit excuses, which ended up happening, which was kind of annoying. So I get to the dealership, and the guy comes in. He welcomes me. Him and his manager are there. I tell them I want to use my car, my Mercedes, as a part of a down payment. They're like, yeah, sure. So I was like, okay, what can you do? And he looks at me with a straight face and says this. I'm not even fucking kidding. He goes, okay, we can do $5,000 out of pocket, $890 a month. And my brother looks at him and goes, that's the price of an M4. And I was like, yo, Omar, whatever the fuck this guy's name was. I was like, you told me $350. He goes, oh, I don't remember, bro. I don't remember. So my brother's just like, we're going. So we just got up and we left. I see on Instagram there's this guy who works for another dealership who's a friend of a friend, and he's selling an SRT 392. And I call him. I'm like, hey, you know, what can you do? He goes, come by, we'll figure something out. And I was like, fuck it, you know, why not? I was looking around. I was really bummed out for a couple weeks because I was like, you know, I can't find the car. This is very unfair. Everything just felt bad to me. I wanted a car and I couldn't get it. And then I remember seeing a YouTube video about how you can get loaner cars in general. So I hit up my friend again. I'm like, hey, can you do this car? He goes, no, I can't, but I have a friend who's a broker that can do it for you. So long story short, I hit up his friend, the guy named Rafi, and then I'm like, hey, what can you do? I have this offer for $800 or $5,000 out of pocket. What can you do? He goes, let me get back to you. And in the meantime, my dad's telling me how I still need a line of credit and this and that. So I'm like, hey, what if I call one of my uncles? Because I'm very close with my relatives. So I call one of my uncles and I'm like, hey, I need someone to co-sign. Can you? And he goes, sure. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, for real? He goes, yes. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm like co-signing. I'm like, you're gonna sign off on the car? He goes, yes, I'll do it. I was like, oh, okay, cool. My friend, or the guy Rafi, texted me back. I think he originally texted me. He said I can do $400 with $2,000 out of pocket. Then I was like, that's a much better deal than I've ever gotten in my fucking life. I was like, okay, let me send you my application and my uncle's application. Maybe you can do a better price. I give him my application and he texts me back. He goes, okay, I can do $394 including tax with $1,500 out of pocket. And my head just fucking exploded because I have friends right now that are paying like $530 for this exact car, $600. Someone I know is paying $700. Then again, everyone's credit is a different story, you know, different tales, all this other bullshit. People get different features. So I'm like, $394. He goes, yeah. I'm like, done deal. And then in my head, I'm like, I kind of feel like the guy's sketched because I don't see the car. I don't see a dealership. But I'm trusting him. I brought my brother with me just because, like I said, he's a salesman, and I don't trust people often, especially salesmen. So I'm having him look over the contract with like his fucking, you know, speckle on him, and he's examining everything in the magnifying glass. He's reading all the tiny font, making sure there's no way I can get scum. And he looks at me, he goes, yeah, you're good to go. I was like, I'm good to go. He goes, yeah. So I sign off the papers. I put the down payment, or I put the out of pocket $1,500. And I get in the car, and I don't understand how this is still real. So I'm driving the car, and I'm, you know, ecstatic that I have this muscle car. I just upgraded from a Mercedes to this, and in my head I'm like, I'm paying less than $400 a month for this muscle car that I've wanted for months. And it finally sunk in, you know, after I was going home, just driving on the freeway. I was so ecstatic. You know, I finally got the car I wanted. And even to this day, I still think it was an incredible price. It turns out the guy that got me the car, my friend, now he's my friend, Rafi, turns out he's actually paying a little bit more for the car every month. And it's funny because, like, he's the broker and I'm the guy getting the car. So I don't know, I thought it was really funny. And you know, long story short, you know, I got very lucky with the way I got this car because, like I said, I had an uncle that had a really good line of credit. Most people aren't as fortunate as I am, so I'm very thankful for that. I can't imagine what the hell I would have paid if it would have been just me. I'd imagine it's around 800 or so, but yeah.